This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 173.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
Welcome back to the Practical Homeopathy Podcast. I'm Kate, and today we're diving into a story that I believe many of you will resonate with. It's the journey from frustration and overwhelm to empowerment and genuine healing through practical homeopathy. I'm joined by Nicole here today. She's a homeschooling mom of 7, a registered nurse, and one of Joette's mastermind students. Nicole has walked through the Academy of Practical Homeopathy program, Mastery, and now serves as one of Joette's ambassadors and is in the mastermind program. But more importantly, she's someone who came to homeopathy the way so many of us do, not skipping, but crawling, searching for answers. Nicole's story is raw, relatable, and incredibly encouraging. From debilitating migraines and autoimmune diagnoses to parasites, hormone issues, and more, she has lived it. And she has uprooted so much of it using practical homeopathy. You'll hear more about that in just a minute. So on today's podcast, she's going to share how she went from her chronic illness and conventional limitations and years of searching to raising a family that relies solely on homeopathy. She now has a busy, thriving practice teaching homeopathy and helping her clients regain their health. Nicole is here today to share what she's learned, what she teaches, and why she believes there is hope for those who feel like they've tried everything. And this is going to be good. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Kate, for that beautiful introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on with you today, and I cannot wait to dive into all of this.
Yes, I'm excited too, because you mentioned just a minute ago while we were talking before the recording how you said that this has changed your life. Can you just elaborate on that just a bit?
Yeah, I mean, just a bit is so hard because it's been so profound. This has just touched my life in so many different ways, not just from a business perspective and a shift, but it's also affected my family greatly. And then, as you mentioned in the beginning, just on a personal health struggle, I've conquered so many different ailments through practical homeopathy. So I'm ever grateful for all of the education that I've learned with Joette.
And you went from learning about how to help yourself to now helping so many others through your teaching and seeing clients in your busy practice. And I think that's exciting too. And how now you're using what has been given to you to now give to others.
Exactly. I started out as a conventional registered nurse, and for me, it was always my passion to help people. And when I quickly found in the healthcare system that we were essentially putting a Band-Aid on things, I knew there had to be a better way. And once I found practical homeopathy, I knew that that was going to be my contribution to help give back and to help people see true health can exist and give them back hope.
I think it's funny because you said when you told your husband that you were going back to school yet again.
Yes.
What was his reaction?
Oh my goodness. So, like I said, I started out as a conventional nurse. So that took some years to complete that schooling. Went through conventional nursing, realized it wasn't what I thought it was. So I went back to school for my holistic bachelor's degree. My husband's like, okay. Then I went back to school for nurse coaching, holistic nurse coaching. I dabbled in all these different modalities and all these things. And then when I learned practical homeopathy was the missing link, and Joette started her academy program, I turned around to my husband and I was like, babe, I'm sorry, but I have to go back to school yet again. And he laughed, but he encouraged me to do so. And then after I went through APH, Joette had at that point created the mastery program. So I was like, okay, hon, I know I said yet again like last year, but now I have to do this another year. So I love education. I love learning. And I feel like this is kind of an area where we can learn forever. We can continue learning forever. So my husband, I think at this point knows that I'm just going to keep on going. I'm just going to keep learning and adding. So
Right, because now you're in mastermind and that could go on for years.
exactly. You guys are kind of stuck with me at this point.
No, we're not stuck with you. We're blessed to have you. So let's just go through and some of the things that you've personally addressed in your life with homeopathy, and then we'll break it down, maybe several of those. And those who are listening to this podcast can hear how you helped with all of these conditions, and they can get some information and pass this on to others who might be needing it as well. So can you go through some of the things that you've addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a long list, unfortunately.
You've been pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I spent a lot of my life very sick. I do look at it as a blessing now, though, because it's led me to be able to, like you said, be able to help other people and really come from it from an empathetic place of understanding and my own healing to kind of inspire other people with that. So again, that's what I like to do. But my story kind of starts back in my 20s when I kind of knew something was wrong. And I spent all of my 20s basically chasing my health, as so many people do. I was so sick that I looked at my husband one day and I was like, wow, if this is what I feel like in my 20s, like, what am I going to actually feel like when I'm older? My husband used to look at me and say that you are the oldest young person that I know because I would get up and like my knees would crack or, I would have aches and pains and all those things. So I spent all my 20s chasing my health, being told by practitioners that I just needed to eat better, I needed to sleep better, I needed to exercise. Kate, kid you not, that I even went to the ER once because I felt like something was stuck in my throat. And I was told by the doctor that I needed to chew my food better, that I probably, that I probably just scratched my throat. Well, it turns out years later that I was actually diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And that thing that was in my throat turned out to be a thyroid nodule. So I know how to chew my food, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of where my journey began with my laundry list of diagnoses. After that, I had, almost every diagnosis under the sun, every letter of the alphabet, my EDS and my MCAS and all those different, diagnoses that we accumulate over the years. But I've been able to turn a lot of that around. I found great help in the holistic world, but there was still a missing piece. And once I found practical homeopathy, I was able to reverse a lot of that. So I don't know. Did you want me to go into a little bit of each of those?
Yes, I think that would be helpful. Do you want to start with the migraines?
Yeah, absolutely. So the migraines that I had were debilitating. I first started suffering with those when I was probably about 14 years old. They definitely affected me greatly in my teenage years. I remember I would be out with friends and I would know that they were coming. I would sense that they were coming on. And I knew that if I didn't go home quickly, that the next thing would be vomiting. And the only thing that really helped me at that point was going home and laying down and trying to sleep them off. So that was earlier on. As the years got older and I started working and became a mom, you can't always go home and go to sleep. So I ended up starting to use Excedrin. And so Excedrin was basically the only thing that would take my migraines away. But I even got to the point where sometimes the Excedrin wasn't working. A lot of times I would end up in the ER. Sometimes these migraines lasted, days and even weeks. They were really debilitating. I would say that I got them very often, at least a couple times a week. So they were very disruptive of my daily life. As a nurse, I remember, when you count your medication cart, you're not supposed to stop. And I remember getting so bad that I would have to like stop counting my med cart so that I could go into the bathroom and vomit because the migraines were so bad. I remember driving home from my shifts and pulling over and vomiting. So it was brutal. It was really
Wow.
disrupting my life. And to say that I have not had a migraine in years, that is one of the most profound things to me. A couple of months ago, I looked back at my husband and I said, do you realize that I have not had a migraine in years? Not even had to take a pharmaceutical for it or even a homeopathic remedy for it. I don't get them at all anymore, Kate. Like they've been completely uprooted. So something that affected my life so significantly, to not have it at all and not even have to use homeopathic remedies for it anymore. There's no better medicine than this.
Yes. Wow. And tell us, what was one of the medicines that you used? I think, was it Bryonia that you?
Yeah. So a
Okay.
funny story. When I first started with homeopathy, I was basically like most people where I was like, okay, this stuff is great. I have a laundry list. Like, where do I start? I need 35 remedies for all the things. And obviously, that's not the way we do homeopathy. But in the beginning, I was like, where do I start? And
Right.
so I tried to tackle my headaches first. And headaches are one of the hardest things to, you're like shaking your head, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because Jet did a podcast, I think, on this recently about how headaches are so hard to cover. And that was one of the things that I wanted to tackle first. And believe it or not, at first, I didn't know what the right remedy was, and it wasn't working because I wasn't choosing the right remedy. And I almost gave up on homeopathy because I was like, oh, this stuff isn't working. And then I found the right remedy. I found Bryonia, and that was what worked for me. And I found that actually by taking the gateway classes, some of the keynotes of Bryonia is worse from movement, better lying down, that kind of thing. And it's a really great headache remedy in general. And that fit my picture so well. And that's something, like I said, I learned in the gateway classes. So when I started taking Bryonia, I was just taking it as an SOS for acute headaches. And I started noticing over the years that I was getting them less and less often, to the point where I wasn't getting them at all anymore. So it was kind of unintentional, but that's how it worked. So that was Bryonia.
Yeah, there are many homeopathic medicines that address headaches, and it depends on the type of headache that you have. But yes, Bryonia can be one of the ones. And I'm so glad that that worked for you, because I just can't imagine having to deal with that, those
Yeah.
debilitating headaches like that.
So, one of the other things that I wanted to mention about headaches is that when I took the Pain Make It Stop protocol course, I found that there were multiple remedies and even a Banerjee protocol in there that can help with headaches and migraines. So, that might be helpful for your listeners to check that course out.
Right. That's a great course. Let's talk now about parasites. I feel like parasites are a hot topic these days. So tell us your story with dealing with parasites.
Yeah, so my story with parasites happened just before they were a hot topic. I know that they're a hot topic right now, but when I was actually going through the academy, I was dealing with all kinds of health issues. My health was moving along pretty well. I was pretty stable at that point with my thyroid conditions and all the things. And something hit me out of nowhere and my health tanked. My thyroid numbers tanked. My nutrient levels tanked. I had yellow around my mouth. I had facial swelling. My lupus was flaring. I was having recurrent pink eye. Skin things were popping up. I had elevated liver enzymes, enlarged liver. I mean, all this hit me out of nowhere. And I was doing a little bit of research on parasites at that time. And I was completely convinced that this was a parasitic infection that, triggered all my autoimmune things. And I actually went into my holistic doctor thinking that she was going to run the labs and help me out that way. And she essentially blamed all of my symptoms on autoimmune conditions. So then I went into a conventional medical doctor with a textbook parasite story. And that doctor also blamed all of my symptoms on autoimmune conditions. And my husband looked at me and he said, Nick, you know the parasite protocol with homeopathy. He said, so what have you got to lose? Why don't you just give it a try? And all of us want validation, right? You want someone to agree with you and say, this is it. This is what your problem is. But I wasn't getting that. And so my husband was like, just do the protocol. Kate, when I did that protocol, within a week of being on the parasite protocol, I actually started detoxing parasites. And within 3 days after the first parasite that I had detoxed, a skin condition that I had for years that nothing was touching ended up resolving and has not come back since. And that was probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
At this point, everything that I had going on then all resolved after that.
There is a blog that Joette wrote called Intestinal Parasites, 6 homeopathic remedies to consider. So for those of you who want to know more about that, you can go to that blog.
Yes. And that blog actually includes Senna too. And that is one of the remedies that I had used that was mentioned in that blog. And that's where my health really turned around using that remedy.
Nice. So you also mentioned just a bit ago your thyroid and problems that you've had with that.
Yes. Thyroid's another hot topic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, hypothyroidism specifically is usually very either misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. I mentioned earlier that I had been chasing my health earlier in my 20s. And when I finally hit 30, I was so incredibly sick at that point, Kate. I thought I was dying. I thought I had cancer. I crawled into the doctor, basically, like Joette says, right? I crawled in and I was like, you missed something. I'm dying. I have cancer. Like my body systems were completely shutting down. And this is after a decade of going to various doctors and being told again that I just need to eat better, sleep better, exercise, all those things. And so they finally had diagnosed me. Nobody had thought to check my thyroid in all of those 10 years. And that happened, I think, because I wasn't overweight for the norm, but I was overweight for me. And so nobody thought to look, even though I had every other textbook symptom. Once I was finally diagnosed, I was thrown on a synthetic drug, did not do well with that synthetic drug. Then I went to a holistic doctor. She put me on like the natural thyroid hormone. I had great success with it. However, the one thing that really hit me once I learned practical homeopathy was that by being on a natural desiccated thyroid hormone that I was on, we're essentially tricking our body into thinking that we healed, right? Because we're putting something into our body and we're telling our thyroid, okay, you don't have to do the work anymore. We got this, right? And so we're really not getting to the root of the problem. My body is depending on me to get lab work done and put this medication in my body. And I went the holistic route because I wanted to heal, right? I wanted to get better. And when I found out that there was practical homeopathy for hypothyroidism, it became my goal to heal my thyroid so that I no longer needed these medications, even though they were considered natural. So that's what I did. It took me a long time. I'm not going to lie. It definitely took me a long time. But I am now at the point in my life where after using various thyroid protocols, which, again, they can be found in several of Joette's courses. She covers hypothyroidism in Good Gut, Bad Gut and feminopathy and all those things. She does a lot on hypothyroidism in her courses. But I found that I was able to not only get off of being on medication for, at that point, I had 20 years of my thyroid not functioning. At that point, my thyroid was severely atrophied, and I was able to come off of my thyroid medications, which I was told by natural doctors and holistic doctors that I would be on for the rest of my life, that my thyroid was so damaged that I would never come off of those medications. And practical homeopathy changed that for me. The protocols changed that for me. So I am at a point now where not only have I been off of those medications, but I don't even need the protocols for the most part.
Wow. That's really incredible because, like you said, when you have a condition for so long, it sometimes can be difficult to heal from that. And so I think that's pretty incredible.
It's been life-changing. And again, it's one of those debilitating disorders that can cause you to not participate in life because there's so many umbrella symptoms with hypothyroidism, including crushing fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to be able to free yourself from that and not have to worry about even taking a daily medication and seeing a doctor and getting labs done and getting the prescriptions filled and all those things, to alleviate all that stress off of you and to be able to function like a normal person again it's profound. It's amazing.
That's a really good point. It's not just having the right homeopathic medicine. It's that you don't have to do all those extra things and pay all that money. Really good points. Okay, well, let's go into something not quite as serious. Plantar warts.
Yeah, definitely not as serious as some of the other things that I've experienced. However, they were not fun either. So I had this plantar wart at the bottom of my foot. It was embedded into my foot, so it was flat. But it was causing me so much pain that I found myself that I was kind of walking on the side of my foot a lot to avoid stepping on it all the time. As a nurse, I was on my feet a lot. That pain was getting to a point where it was really difficult. And again, at that time, I was working with a holistic doctor. And even she said, she's like, even holistic things don't really work for this. Usually people have to have them cut off or frozen off, lasered, all these things. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do it the natural way, right? So I found in Joette's blog, it's for warts. That blog is
Not just any warts, molluscum contagiosum.
Yes, that one. I refer so many people to that blog because it's so beneficial. She has a couple variations on that blog. There was a couple of different remedies on that blog that were suggested. And just within about a week of using antimonium crude suggested on that blog, my wart resolved and has not come back. And that was probably about 6 years ago.
I love it.
So even the holistic doctors said I couldn't get rid of that thing, and homeopathy did it.
Yeah. Okay, there are a few more things that I would really like to fit in if we can, because we could probably go on for a long time, many hours, but maybe we'll have to do another podcast. But today we're just focusing on some of the things that you have experienced. And one of those, and this is again, a painful condition, trigeminal neuralgia. So talk about that.
Yeah, Kate, this is one of the most excruciating pains I have ever dealt with in my life. And I've dealt with some things. I've had kidney stones and migraines and all of these things. But this one came about. I had a dental cavitation, which incidentally I had learned through Joette that was a thing. Once I realized that I had a cavitation issue, I went to my holistic biological dentist and I said to him, I don't know how I don't have a cavitation, so we need to look at that. And he did the proper testing and found that I had several dental cavitations. Mm-hmm. While I did use practical homeopathy to help support my body through that healing, I also chose to go ahead and do a surgical protocol where they go in and they basically clean out the jawbone and the infections. It's a pretty extensive surgery. It's very taxing on your body. And I actually had 3 of those done within less than a year. And I probably, in retrospect, should have waited and should have spaced that out. But that third one was like opening up a Pandora's box of I don't even know what in my body. And with that came the trigeminal neuralgia. I also have burning mouth syndrome, all of these things happening. But the trigeminal neuralgia is known as the suicide disease. And they call it that because the pain is so excruciating that people literally don't know what to do with themselves. And wow. I can attest to that pain. Kate, it's a nerve pain in your face and it goes, in different areas. So this pain was shooting into my ear. It was shooting up my eye. It was going down into my chin. It was excruciating pain. And luckily, Joette had a blog on trigeminal neuralgia. So, of course, I went to her blog for that. And I was able to, within less than a day, find alleviation from those symptoms. And it was really sad for me because I've seen, now that I recognize it and I've experienced it myself, I've seen other people experiencing it. And this is a condition that goes on for people for years. And I cannot imagine living with that type of pain. And it's no wonder they call it suicide disease, because if you had to live with that kind of pain for that long, that's horrible. If only people knew that there was a homeopathic solution and they didn't have to suffer with that pain. I mean, that would just be profound for people to be able to deal with that.
Oh, yeah. How long had you suffered with the pain before you found the remedy?
I right away went on to Joette's blog and was looking for answers. So I dealt with it maybe for a day or two. It was immediate relief. It was only a few doses and it was immediate relief, and it did not come back.
I always want to say that's incredible, but I say that it seems like every day with homeopathy. I say that is incredible.
I'm telling you, Kate, I cannot tell you how many times a day that I say that with even my own healing testimonials. We hear from students, from colleagues, from clients. It's just, you can say it forever. Homeopathy does so much healing that it never gets old. My dad used to say it, you never cease to amaze me. Well, practical homeopathy never ceases to amaze me.
So in case people are wondering, that blog is called Facial Neuralgia, a Torturous Pain. So you can look that up. She also has podcast 139 where Joette talks about cavitation. So that would be another resource. Nicole, I know these are just a few of the conditions that you've dealt with over the years, and I would love to hear more of your story at some time, and maybe, the people that you've helped, because you really have built a thriving practice now. And I know you have these kinds of stories. You hear them every day, which is so exciting. But can you give us some of your final thoughts as we wrap up this podcast?
Absolutely, Kate. And again, thank you so much for having me on and just allowing me to share all the suffering that I've dealt with. I would love to be back on at some future date and share so many success stories that we've had with our family and clients as well. But just from a personal note, again, like you said in the beginning, something that Joette has always said is that we don't come skipping in, we come crawling in. And that is certainly the way that I came into homeopathy. And so some of your listeners might be in the same place of suffering, or I find a lot of people start to feel hopeless. They start to think that there are no solutions for them. Maybe they've been let down like I was by conventional medicine or even holistic medicine. So I just want to let everybody know that with practical homeopathy, there is hope, there is healing. We can uproot the chronic conditions and the things that we've been told that we can't heal from. It is possible. So I think, as Joette says, this is the medicine that we all thought that we were getting. And so I think that our listeners should jump in and get started on their healing journey so they could take back their health and allow their body to do what it was meant to do, which is to heal.
Well put, Nicole. If you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering about maybe finding a practical homeopath like Nicole, you can go to findapracticalhomeopath.com, and there you'll find Nicole and many other practical homeopaths who can help you on your journey. And so I hope that Nicole's story has brought you encouragement, clarity, and maybe even a spark of hope that you didn't expect. Her journey is really a testament to what can happen when you refuse to give up and finally find a system of medicine, practical homeopathy, that aligns with how the body was designed to heal. So if you're ready to begin your journey, there's a place for you. It's here. Whether you're brand new or you're already deep into your studies, you're welcome here. And we love to see you in Mighties Plus, Joette's study groups, the Gateway to Practical Homeopathy study groups, and the Academy of Practical Homeopathy. which actually we're starting a new class soon. So if you're hearing this podcast, you might want to check that out as well. And we'll put a link in this podcast so that you can join our founders list and get more information on the Academy of Practical Homeopathy. But for now, share this podcast with someone you know who could use the encouragement and information that Nicole shared here today. And I want to thank you for spending this time with us. We'll see you in the next episode.
It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free without affiliates or advertising here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday night lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse joetteslearningcenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.